Welcome back, everyone. In this lesson, we're going to focus on one of the most important elements of any story, the protagonist. The protagonist isn't just another character. They're the heart of the story. Their growth, challenges, and decisions are what pull audiences in and keep them hooked. A strong protagonist doesn't stay the same from beginning to end. They have flaws, they struggle, and hopefully, they grow. Let's break this down step by step, starting with the most foundational part of your protagonist, the lie. Every great protagonist starts with a lie they believe about themselves or the world. This lie is something they think is true, but it's holding them back. It's what creates their internal conflict and often spills into their external challenges. As a storyteller, you need to show how this lie impacts the protagonist's decisions and relationships. Take a moment to think about your own stories or favorite characters. What lie does your protagonist believe? How does it shape their actions or decisions? Once you've logged into Saga, you can open up your project file and then head to the Characters tab. Inside the Characters tab, you'll find lots of input fields for the name, physical description, personality, archetypes. Let's scroll down to the lie input field. You can see there's a tooltip here which gives a few examples from well-known movies. If you know the lie you want your character to believe, you can fill it in, or you can click Generate, and Saga will come up with some lies based on your character description so far. Select whichever one suits your character best, or you can choose one and edit it. The character's lie is attributed to their ghost, a traumatic event from the character's past, or in some cases, to an event that happens to the character during Act 1. Together, the lie and ghost are often referred to as the character's flaw, which requires growth to overcome. In tragic arcs, this flaw is known as a fatal flaw, because the character's refusal to overcome it is what leads to their downfall. Using Saga, type your character's ghost into the input field, or if you need suggestions, press Generate, and Saga will come up with 5 options well suited to your character. Select the best one and revise as needed. After the flaw is determined, we can use it to figure out the character's need, what they must learn by the end of the story, which should be a reflection of the theme or moral question. Type your character's need into the input field, or click Generate, and Saga will suggest 5 options based on your character's details so far. To create meaningful conflict throughout the story, the need must contrast with your character's want, their main goal during the story, which should also be directly tied to the plot. If you need help, just use Saga's Generate tool to come up with meaningful suggestions. Choose whatever order to input these characteristics best suited to you, and Saga will always be there to guide you along the way. Even though your protagonist starts off flawed, they must have a hint of something better inside them. This potential is what gives your audience hope that they can grow and overcome their lie. Think about your protagonist. What's one trait or quality they have that shows they're capable of overcoming their lie? Even if it's just a small hint, it should be there from the start. Your protagonist's status quo is essential to the first act. It's where they start the story, and it's usually a place they either don't want to leave or they can't leave. Why is this important? Because the status quo symbolizes your character's inner world and dramatizes the lie they believe. In order to set up your protagonist's status quo, we're heading to Saga's Beat tab. This is where beats 1 through 5 come into play, giving you the tools to establish who your protagonist is and what's at stake. Not sure what to put in each one? Just hover over the tooltip next to any beat for a quick description. The key to a solid status quo is weaving these beats into a seamless picture. You want to show your protagonist's goal and how it ties to the plot, while hinting at their deeper struggles. Let's look at an example from The Matrix to see this in action. For Beat 1, Prologue, we're hit with the green digital code raining down the screen. We track Trinity on a tense phone call with Cypher, hinting at betrayal. Then action explodes. No Neo yet, just the stage being set. Next, Beat 2, Protagonist 1, now we meet Neo. passed out at his computer after a hacking binge. A mysterious message appears on his screen. Follow the white rabbit. He wants to unravel a deep mystery, a goal that'll drive the plot toward discovering the Matrix. On to beat 3, Protagonist Need. Neo's flaw is his self-doubt. That hacker message pushes him to act, urging, follow the white rabbit. It's a clue to what Neo needs to learn. When a group shows up trying to buy hacked computer tech from Neo on the black market, Neo says he can't tell if he's awake or still dreaming. The group invites him to go clubbing, which Neo initially declines, until he sees a white rabbit tattoo on a girl's shoulder. For beat 4, Protagonist's Life, at a noisy club, Neo's awkwardly alone against a wall when Trinity shows up. She tells him the Matrix is searching for him. This beat paints Neo's life, a disconnected hacker drifting through shadows. Finally, beat 5, Protagonist's Plight. Neo's alarm jolts him awake, late for a job he despises. At the office, his manager lectures him about his authority issues, warning he's risking his position. Neo's plight is clear. He's stuck in a suffocating routine. To do this for your protagonist, open Saga's Beat tab. Type their details in each beat input field. Need inspiration? Click Generate, and Saga will offer tailored suggestions based on what you've entered so far. With these 5 beats, you'll create a status quo that draws readers in and plants the seeds for your theme. Jump into Saga and play around. Input the beats in any order that works for you. Whether you start with the prologue or the plight, Saga's got your back every step of the way. Let's get your status quo locked in and set your story in motion. Think about your character. What does their status quo look like at the beginning of the story, and how does it represent their inner struggle? Every protagonist faces a moment that shakes up their world. This is their opportunity to change, but they don't see it that way at first. Instead, they resist it, clinging to their lie and the comfort of their old ways. Think about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. When Miles Morales is bitten by the spider, it gives him powers that he doesn't fully understand. At first, he's overwhelmed and doesn't want to embrace the responsibility that comes with being Spider-Man. What kind of event could challenge your protagonist and push them toward growth, even if they don't want to face it? Finally, your protagonist needs to make a decision. This is the moment where they actively choose to face the challenges ahead. It marks the beginning of their transformation. Now that your protagonist's status quo is set, let's move into beats 6 through 10. These beats take your story from that first disruption to a major turning point. Using the Matrix, we'll see how Neo's journey unfolds across these steps. Start with beat 6, Inciting Incident. Neo's at his desk when a package arrives with a phone. It rings. Morpheus warns him the agents are coming. This shakes up his world, kicking the story into gear. Next, beat 7, Hesitation. Morpheus tells Neo to climb out onto the window washing scaffold. Neo freezes, scared of the drop, and gets caught. His doubt stalls him here. Then, beat 8, Prepare for Goal. The agents interrogate Neo and plant a tracking bug in his stomach. This creepy move forces him closer to facing his mystery. For beat 9, Attempt at Goal, Trinity and Switch pull Neo into a car. They ask him to trust them as they extract the tracker, his first real step toward answers. Finally, beat 10, Plot Point 1, Neo meets Morpheus, who offers the red pill or blue pill choice. Neo picks red, diving into the truth. This locks them into the adventure. These beats, Inciting Incident through Plot Point 1, bridge your protagonist from their old life to the story's heart. Write a synopsis for your beat in the field, or type prompts like a strange call or a tough choice and click Generate. Saga will suggest options based on what you've entered so far. Pick what fits, tweak it, and watch your plot take off. Now that we've set up our protagonist and story world in Act 1, let's focus on a crucial moment in storytelling, the first plot point, or what I like to call the game changer. It's the moment when the protagonist is forced out of their normal world and into the main conflict of the story. The first plot point typically happens after the first quarter of your story. It's a big, pivotal event, something exciting, memorable, and life-changing for the protagonist. Let's break it down into 3 key character decisions. Before the first plot point, your character makes a decision that leads them toward this moment. But remember, the decision isn't the plot point itself, it's just the lead up. For example, in Moana, Moana decides to leave the safety of her village and venture out into the ocean. She doesn't know yet what she's about to face, but this choice sets her up for the adventure ahead. Take a moment to think about the story you're writing, or one that you love. What decision does the protagonist make just before their world changes? Next, something big and unexpected happens that disrupts the protagonist's status quo. This is the first plot point itself, and it forces the protagonist to react. Think about your favorite stories. What moment completely changes the protagonist's world and forces them to act? Finally, after the first plot point, the protagonist reacts to what's happened and sets a clear physical goal. Either they eagerly step into the new world, or they get dragged into it kicking and screaming. In Frozen, after Elsa accidentally reveals her ice powers and flees from the kingdom, Anna decides to pursue her into the mountains. This decision sets the rest of the story into motion. What goals do you think a protagonist might set after their world is turned upside down? Now that our protagonist has left behind their status quo, we're ready to dive into the first half of Act 2. This is the section where your protagonist really starts to grow, or at least they start failing in interesting ways that push them to grow. It's a time of reacting, learning, and struggling with the lie they believe, which is holding them back. First, let's quickly outline where this falls into our story. Think of a story as two halves. The first half is about reacting to events. The second half is about taking action. This is clearest in the first half of Act 2, where your character reacts to the first plot point. Whatever event threw them out of their status quo and into chaos. Sound good so far? Let's start with 3 key ideas. Number 1, reactivity versus passivity. Your protagonist is reacting to events thrown at them. They're not passive. They're still actively pursuing their goal, but they're struggling because they're at the mercy of the antagonistic force. Your protagonist is still clinging to the lie they believe. This is their internal conflict. They might think they're making progress, but their lie is creating obstacles. Halfway through the second quarter, we have a moment where the antagonist fires a warning shot. This reminds us what's at stake and who's really in control at this stage. To structure the first half of Act 2, we'll focus on 4 steps. Number 1, planting the seeds of truth. After the first plot point, your protagonist is vulnerable. This is when they're primed to receive help, maybe from a mentor or from their environment. They won't get everything they need yet, but they'll receive a piece of the puzzle. Ask yourself, what small but meaningful skill or advice can your protagonist receive to help them start tackling their lie? Number 2, reveal flaws in the character's approach. In the unknown world, your protagonist is still trying to operate the way they always have, but now it's not working. Their lie starts creating problems for them, forcing them to adapt. Think about this for your story. How does clinging to their lie make things harder for your protagonist? Step number 3, the illusion of progress. Your character is still chasing the thing they want, believing it will solve all their problems. But the closer they get to it, the farther it pulls them from what they truly need to grow as a person. What about your story? How can your character's focus on their want push them away from their need? Finally, give your character a taste of what life could be like if they let go of their lie. This should be subtle, just a hint of the truth they'll embrace later. For example, in Inside Out, Joy sees how Sadness's ability to connect with others could be an asset, but she's not ready to fully accept it yet. In your story, what moment can give your protagonist a glimpse of life beyond their lie? Ready to dive into Act 2? In Saga's Beat tab, the first half of Act 2, beats 1 to 10, takes your protagonist from leaving their old life to gearing up for bigger challenges. Let's plot this out using the Matrix, starting after Neo takes the red pill through to his Oracle visit. Open Saga's Beat tab and start with Beat 1, Cross to the Unknown. After the red pill, frail Neo wakes up in a pod, and Morpheus's crew pulls him from the Matrix into the Nebuchadnezzar. His body's rebuilt, some doubt he's the one. Next, in Beat 2, B story, Morpheus plugs Neo into a construct, showing him the ruined world and war. Neo vomits from the shock, but Morpheus insists he's the one. For Beat 3, Trials of Initiation, Tank uploads Kung Fu to Neo's mind. Morpheus spars with him in a dojo sim, pushing him to free his mind. Neo struggles but meets allies like Tank and Trinity, testing his goal in this new world. Beat 4, Gain Skills, ramps up. Morpheus challenges Neo to jump between skyscrapers. He falls, bleeds, learns death is real in the Matrix. The next day in a city sim, a woman in red turns into Agent Smith. Morpheus explains agents possess anyone. Then Beat 5, Pinch Point 1, Sentinels attack the Nebuchadnezzar. The crew uses an EMP to escape. Meanwhile, Cypher secretly offers Morpheus to Agent Smith for a comfy Matrix life. Beat 6, Trials, shifts to the crew eating gruel, debating taste. Mouse defends emotions with the woman in red. Cypher doubts Neo as Morpheus plans an Oracle trip. In Beat 7, Gain Skills, Neo asks Trinity about trusting the Oracle. Her cryptic reply, that it guides your path, teaches him to trust allies, tied to overcoming doubt through belief. Beat 8, Trials, has Neo waiting with other potentials at the Oracles, kids bending reality. He struggles to fit in with these odd allies. Beat 9, Gain Skills, follows. A child bends a spoon, saying, there is no spoon. This shifts Neo's mindset. Finally, Beat 10, Reach Inner Sanctum, Neo meets the Oracle, who predicts he'll break a vase, teaching him about destiny versus free will. These beats trace Neo's arc, leaving his old life, facing trials, gaining skills, and hitting a turning point. In Saga, type your own story's beat into the fields, or click Generate. Saga will suggest options based on your prior input. You can even delete or add beats and type in your own description for them. Pick what fits, tweak it, and you're set for Act 2's first half. Next, we'll dive into one of the most exciting and transformative moments in storytelling, the midpoint.